Playing against Reggie and coaching Reggie and knowing his personality, Reggie's hit more shots in crucial times than about anybody I've ever seen.
The best thing about Reggie Miller being one of the biggest trash talkers in NBA history is that he backed it up with an even bigger game. By his third season in the NBA, he was a legit star and one of the better scorers in the league. A unicorn whose combination of shooting ability, quick trigger, and off-ball movement made him something defenses of that time had never seen before. In these early years, you'll often see him coming off of these screens with tons of separation or punishing the league's best defenses for late rotations to his spot-ups. By 1994, defenses knew to play him tighter, and that allowed Reggie's gravity to shine even more. As defenders trail Reggie here, Dale Davis gets space to attack Ewing's closeout for an easy jumper. During these mid-90s, the Pacers' offense revolved around Reggie, and rightfully so. Despite Reggie's reputation as just a three-point sniper, his shot profile shows a player who was really so much more. Yes, he was the very best the league had seen at navigating screens, but he was equally great at leveraging his threat to shoot, here back-cutting Ron Harper for an easy score. He was also capable of curling off of these when defenders trailed and had scoops to finish with. Reggie was an underrated defender too. High effort and quick enough to stay in front, and yes, that's Michael Jordan. He added a lot to his scoring efficiency by being a career 89% free throw shooter, but also by being elite at getting there. For a 9-year stretch of his prime, he averaged about 9.5 free throws per 100 possessions, and never dipped below 8 in that stretch. Free throw rates similar to Kevin Durant's. And yet, for as great as Reggie Miller was in a regular season, it's the playoffs where Reggie really makes his case for this list.
The next thing that he brought to the table, he loved the big moments. He loved the big games. He loved the playoffs or the big marquee matchups against his arch rival, whether it was Michael Jordan or somebody or the Knicks. He got up. The bigger the game, the bigger Reggie Miller would perform and play.
Let's flash back to 1995. It's game 1 of the Eastern Conference semifinals. Pacers are inbounding the ball down 105-99. Reggie hits a tough three. The Knicks do Knick things. Reggie hits an even tougher three, nails both free throws, and an iconic NBA moment was born. And that might not even be his best playoff moment. The year before, he had 25 in just the fourth quarter of a comeback win in Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Finals, a performance he iced with that shot, and some trash talk for Spike Lee to take home with him. Spike's face is hilarious here. But for as great as these moments were, the whole picture paints Reggie as one of the better playoff scorers ever. Check this out. Here are 3-year peaks for perimeter players that Reggie often gets compared to. Reggie has the third highest volume at about 27 points per 75 and the highest efficiency at about 9 percentage points above the league average true shooting percentage. But it is worth noting he also had the second fewest turnovers of this group. His combination of high volume, extremely high efficiency, and low turnovers for a player with his usage was almost unprecedented. Even compared to some of history's best postseason scorers, Reggie still holds his own here. You see multi-year prime playoff stretches for Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, and James Harden. Reggie is last in volume by a slim margin, but first by a decent margin in efficiency over Steph and an even bigger margin over Kevin Durant and James Harden. Now you might look at these numbers and be thinking, well, what about Steph's playoff run this year? He had a really good playoffs. Would that catapult Steph in front of Reggie? But even then, Reggie still looks like he belongs here. One more thing these guys have in common is they all have weaknesses. While Reggie was capable of the occasional dime, he was an overall pretty average passer with a handle that could get shaky in tight spaces. Here is a clip I think illustrates all of Reggie's biggest weaknesses The play starts with Reggie sitting back in the corner. His lack of aggressiveness was an issue at times, and by the time he does come get the ball, the shot clock's winding down. He gets his screen, and here are those handle issues I discussed, and this floater of a pass barely gets through, and the play ends in a turnover. Reggie was also one to never challenge shots at the rim, and it's a dunk. Speaking of defensive weaknesses, he has a habit of overhelping and taking bad angles to recover, as he does here. Even with all of these weaknesses, I do think we may be looking at one of the 15 greatest offensive players ever. This is a chart of unique 5-year stretches of the best offenses in NBA history, sorted by offensive rating in the regular season and the postseason. Of note here, Reggie's Pacers had better postseason offenses than Shaq and Penny's Magic, Dirk's late 2000s Mavericks teams, and even Kobe and Powell's Laker teams. His team's consistent offensive efficiency over the years was largely spearheaded by his own. He had an 11-year stretch of at least a 59% true shooting percentage and averaged 60% true shooting over the course of his 18-year career, a mark that is first among all-time players who have scored at least 25,000 points. There is a player who may pass him in this category in the future. We'll get to him later. Reggie's resume looks a little light, but I do think some of this is due to voters simply getting these awards wrong.
What? The voters getting it wrong? Who knew?
Here are the guards fighting for second team All-NBA in the 90s, since first team was a given. Year-by-year value of well-known impact metrics like augmented plus-minus and offensive box plus-minus. If you don't know or don't want to know much about analytics, don't worry, I won't bore you with it here. This chart simply helps support the notion that Reggie was quite simply a more impactful player than the guys winning All-NBA over him during those years. With his style of game and a little luck, he was able to play 18 years in the NBA, with 12 of those being at or near an All-NBA level, including the 99-2000 season where he took 2 games off the Kobe and Shaq Lakers with Shaq at his apex. Reggie was a flawed player, like any other. His ball handling and passing limited him offensively, and defensively he could be spacey and slow-footed at times. But I ultimately think Reggie's shooting and gravity, combined with his underrated defense and overall offensive impact, makes him the 30th greatest player in NBA history. The number in parentheses is a range I think is reasonable for him on GOAT lists like this. And if I had to put someone at 31, I'd probably go Scottie Pippen. And if I had to do 32, I'd go Patrick Ewing. Ultimately, Reggie's consistently great playoff play, along with him leading a perennial contender for a decade, made me lean towards him. Please hit like and subscribe to support this channel and more content like this. My Twitter and TikTok accounts are below. And as always, thank you for watching.